this week, we're talking about battling perfectionism, and I want to share with you why I'm doing the 75 Hard Challenge again. And I'm going to talk about really enabling your dreams, empowering your dreams by enrolling the support in the genius zone of other people. My name is Amanda Kaufman, and you're watching The Amanda Kaufman Show. All right. Well, welcome back. And I am so excited to talk to you about perfectionism. And, you know, if you've been watching me on the socials or if you've been on my email list, and by the way, if you're wondering, how do I get on her email list? You can always go to amandakaufman.net and you can check out my blog. You can check out my video blog. You can always join us there and get some wonderful freebies there. Or you can go to the Coaches Plaza, thecoachesplaza.com. And you can actually join our group and you can join our community. And there's lots of different ways to join our list. Why would you want to join our list? Well, because I'm often revealing a whole lot about what it actually took to become an actual coach. You know, perfectionism. Let's talk about it. What is it? It is the story we tell ourselves that something is not actually good enough to be released yet. That's what I think of as perfectionism. It's not good enough to be released yet. And it's this recurring story that we love to tell ourselves about why we're not already there yet. You know, like when you're driving down the highway, you've got kids in the back of the car and they're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And very often the reason that full-grown adults supply for why we're not already where we want to be is because it's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. The thing is that if you're actually working on excellence, then you know that to perfect is a verb. You know that to bring excellence requires study. It requires action taking. And if you're staying frozen in indecision and indecisiveness, then you're not perfecting anything. The perfectionism is really just an excuse for fear. And, you know, I have to tell you something about that excuse. It's powerful. It's gripping, in fact. You know, the excuse of perfectionism is such a gripping one because I think we all know what it feels like to be embarrassed when we go to do something and we weren't as prepared as we could have been, or when we get compared to somebody who was more prepared than we were, and that feeling of embarrassment, that feeling that like, I know I have it in me to show up at a higher level, or I know that it's possible for me. I have the capacity to perform at a higher level or to have greater excellence in what I'm doing. When we know that we have this capacity to perform or to be greater than where we are right now, that can bring up a lot of feelings. It can bring up a lot of emotions. And where perfectionism gets to be very challenging is when we really attach to this story that it has to be all that and a bag of chips before another soul can even see it, I think is really attaching to the story that we will be hurt irreparably. Like we will never recover if someone finds out that we are tarnished, that we are not good. If someone finds out that we are lesser than somehow. And so I really wanted to talk in today's blog about all this perfectionism, all of this like fear of somebody finding out that you're less beautiful or less smart or less fit or less young or less old or less than and comparison. And you know, let's talk about it, because I specialize in helping people who want to coach other people. And I have been so disillusioned over the last several years as I work with more and more and more coaches, um, that in our space of coaching, in the coaching industry, coaches don't feel any more confident, I don't think, than any other person. You know, any other profession, any other like I don't think just because you've had the training around personal growth or development, or you've had a certification, or you've had particular exposure to the space, it strikes me that a lot of coaches really struggle with confidence, and a lot of coaches really struggle with high levels of perfectionism, because they hold themselves to a really high standard. And that makes a lot of sense, actually, because you should. If you're providing a service where you're helping people achieve, um, weight loss, for example, and you are struggling with eating the sticky snacks every night, there's an incongruency there. Or if you're helping people with productivity, but you don't yourself stay very organized, there's an incongruency there. So I can see why, like, a lot of coaches really struggle with, like, hey, I need to hold myself to a level or a standard in order to be congruent when I am serving my clients. But when it rises to this level of perfectionism, there's a really helpful frame that I have found has served me so well. And that is to understand that the desire for perfect, or rather excellence, is not such a bad thing. You know, being obsessed with mastery is not such a bad thing. When it gets to be a bad thing is when you become maladaptive, when you become so rigid, so fixed in your mindset, so shall we say, not able to receive truth, when you're no longer able to function well. Then that's when perfectionism starts to get in the way of being able to take meaningful, purposeful action forward. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're in the pursuit of excellence, and let's say, for example, you read the books, you study, you test things, you document what you're doing, you spend a lot of time developing mastery. Since when is that bad? Since when is any of that bad? you know? And when I look at a lot of the world's highest performers and the people that have achieved very remarkable things and had the impact in the world that they set out to have, they did so in obsessive ways, and they were very decisive. So to decide is to kill off, to cut away other possibilities. They were obsessed. They were perfectionistic in the sense that they were choosing excellence in their chosen area of expertise, in their chosen zone of genius. That being said, they still made room for their personal health. They still made room for having loving connections in their life. You know, for the people that I consider to be very, very successful, there's certain costs that are not automatic. You know, I think when you look at very successful people, it's very tempting to say, oh, well, in order to be perfectly successful, you've got to sacrifice all friendship, or you've got to sacrifice all of the waking hours of the day, or you've got to sacrifice all of this or that. And it's true that you would need to be decisive about where you are putting your energy and what's really important. However, I've just seen so many examples of wildly successful people who are successful in multiple realms of their life. And therefore, I don't really believe that you have to be obsessively successful at the exclusion of 100% of all things that are good and meaningful in your life. What am I saying? I'm saying you can be adaptive in your perfection. I'm saying you can choose what matters in your life, and you can choose to leverage into what really matters, but it requires a high level of intent, and it requires not looking at perfection as an excuse, but rather looking at perfection as a goal, and looking at perfection as like, oh, that is a standard that I am working towards actively and proactively. When people use perfection as a block, they're being maladaptive. So what does that mean? It means they're saying, well, I would work on this, except I'm just spending a lot of time in my head thinking about what it would be like if something was perfect. Well, that's called playing pretend. That's not actually driving to perfection. That's driving to to going crazy, because you're not going to actually see the fruit of those thoughts, you know. So what does this have to do with the 75 hard and mental toughness journey and all of that kind of thing? Well, everything. You know, what I really appreciate about being introduced to this mental toughness challenge is that I used to have the paradigm or the limiting belief that it would be too difficult or too challenging for me to do the things that are on the list for 75 Hard. So if you want to go check it out, it's at 75hard.com. And by the way, it's not necessarily an endorsement of like Andy Frisella or, you know, his podcast or anything like that. I really like the mental toughness program. He hates it when you call it a challenge. So out of respect, I will call it a mental toughness program. I don't follow literally anything else that he does. So I cannot vouch for really anything else that Andy Frisella does. But this program has been really life-changing for me. And the reason why is because before doing this challenge, when I saw someone do 75 hard, I immediately was like, that's too hard. That's too hard for me. And my perfectionistic brain was like, oh no. There is, you know, I was looking at my current reality and I was saying, current reality says that is too difficult to set aside 90 minutes a day, and more than that, to have to split those 90 minutes apart into 2 45 minutes, and to absolutely require that one of those be outside, rain or shine or snow or sleet. Like, it has to be. I was like, oh, that's too rigid. You know, there was, it was really interesting because on one hand, I was saying that I was seeking like this perfectionistic lifestyle. But on the other hand, a perfect 75 was, I just felt like an impossible task. Absolutely impossible. But it wouldn't leave my mind of like, I just kept on seeing so many people complete it. And I told myself things like, you know, Amanda, you've gained too much weight. You've been out of shape for too long. You know, you used to be this athlete when you were a figure skater growing up, but you know, like you've lost that. You're not that anymore. Like, girl, you know, and I would stack all this proof about why I couldn't do that challenge. And I'm so grateful because I have had such positive experiences of being enrolled in coaching programs and being with coaches that I learned that, you know, getting support is one of the best things that you can do, that you can decide to do to create a new future for yourself. So the first time I did 75 hard, I'm actually doing this as a second round. I'm on day 7. The first time I did 75 hard, I actually did it with an accountability group. And I was so afraid to do it because I was like, oh my God, everybody's going to think that I, I'm the weirdo. Oh my God. If I fail at this, it's going to be so embarrassing. And that was like one of the main reasons why I did it, is because I wanted to just desensitize myself from that fear by just being there and doing it. And what was really interesting about going into that environment is that really what I was committing to was I did 2 45-minute walks per day. And I have a little indoor treadmill here. And I walked outside every day. And I sometimes did 2 outdoor walks every day. And then I did a gallon of water every day, 10 pages of reading every day, the selfie every day, no alcohol, eating well, and I believe that I covered everything. But it was actually the selfie that almost got me a couple of times. It was the staying committed to that process every single day. And what is really crazy is, choosing to commit to a process for 75 consecutive days when I had all that self-talk going on about how I wasn't the kind of person who, and then making the decision that I would be the kind of person who. That was the big difference maker. To be the kind of person who was stubborn, to be the kind of person who would show up even if, to be the kind of person who, if somebody made fun of me, that I would show up anyway, that I would be tougher than somebody who could be mean. And of course, no one was mean. Everyone was completely encouraging. I had this expectation, probably because of stuff that happened when I was a little kid, that that people were going to be mean or nasty, or that they were going to say you could do better. And again, all voices from my past. I heard nothing of the sort. I heard encouragement. I heard good job. I heard wow, And I think that the big lesson there, and this is the difference between, maladaptive perfectionism and adaptive perfectionism, is if you're perfecting something, one of the biggest things that I did the first time I did 75 hard was I put myself in a community that was led by a coach who was curating a culture of kindness, badassery, and just generally an environment that was going to facilitate that success. Whining was really not tolerated in that environment. Not that I was going to whine, but it was really helpful that, like, if somebody was kind of getting a little about what was going on, it was a very, proactive, like, here's what you can do about it kind of a place. So people, that kind of stuff just fizzled really fast because people were just, it was a great environment for, like, here's how you solve that. Here's how you move forward. Here's how you keep going. And I think one of the things that we don't do when we're trying to perfect our performance is we don't think about how important is it to create that culture around us, an environment around us to ensure that we're going to have the highest level of performance that we've ever had. And so perfectionism, I think, isn't such a bad thing, as long as you are aware of it being an enhancement to your performance and actually about raising your standards. All the days, months, actually years before I did 75 hard, I was thinking about doing it. So my maladaptive perfectionism was like just spinning all these cycles of thinking about doing it, thinking about being a person who could. And if you think about it, it's like I'm putting all this energy, all this thought, all this life force into, I want to be a person who could work out twice a day, every day. A person who could say no to alcohol, to saying yes to healthy food, to reading every day. Like, everything that's on that challenge is great. and when I was looking at, I remember evaluating it before and going, oh, working out twice a day, that's so hardcore. But it's like, you get to choose what the workout is. So if you're into, the P90X and you're all into powerlifting and you're all into like all that stuff, that's great. That's good for you. I'm still at a place and a phase in my journey where, I'm genuinely not interested in an injury. So I'm still kind of at the let's walk, let's do a lot of stress management kind of thing. And I'm more of like a stretch it out yoga, walking is good exercise kind of a place. But where was I before? Before, I was sedentary. I was sitting all the time. So perfectionism being maladaptive is when you're thinking about what's the perfect workout. The perfect workout would be exactly, 45 minutes once a day. But then not doing anything because you're thinking about what the perfect workout is. And it's like, well, if I do this challenge, it's giving me 2, but then, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, So what does this have to do with your coaching and your coaching practice? Well, it turns out everything, because everyone that you are wanting to serve is at some point on their journey, and their journey has not been perfect, and it will not be perfect, and you are not the perfect solution, and you will never be the perfect solution. You are part of their journey, and you're part of their solution. So, is this a big call to action? Do 75 hard and you'll be an amazing coach. Maybe. Maybe it's learning that your commitment to the process of showing up is the most important thing for you to master first. When I think back to my entire coaching journey, and I think back to, the very, very, very beginning of it, and all the way through, and all the things that have happened in the last 7 years. And I've done some really cool stuff. I've had $100,000 weekends. I've had $30,000 clients many, many times. We've done a couple $1 million. Like, I've done a lot of cool stuff in the actual productivity of the business. But the one thing that is absolutely constant is the consistency, right? Like, constantly showing up, always being here. And is it like always being here in exactly the same way? Well, no. It's kind of like 75 hard. I would walk outside every day. That was my consistent 45 minute workout outside. But the second workout was sometimes walking on the treadmill in my office. Sometimes is walking on the treadmill at the gym. Sometimes I would do cycling. Sometimes I would do something else, but always there, always working out, always something. That consistent show up piece, and taking like an idea of what you can do and putting it into action and practice is the thing. It's the single thing. And what we teach in the Coaches Plaza is we teach something called automatic networking, where you're meeting people every single day consistently. But then after you've met the person, it's up to you to keep talking to them. It's up to you to keep driving a fit conversation with people. It's up to you to keep showing up to your coaching programs, constantly improving your fulfillment, constantly improving on how can you really get a great result with your clients, partner with your clients, keep offering things. Your market is always evolving, always changing. How do you keep showing up as the best version of you as a coach? That toughness, that tenacity, that grit, that standard raise, that's what you are perfecting. And you're never going to arrive, ever. So building that muscle is really what it's all about. So, the last piece I wanted to talk about today was, don't go alone. Stop trying to should all over yourself. Gosh, the reason I wanted to touch on this is it's been such a struggle, and a triumph and a trauma and a triumph over and over again to get the right support. I mentioned earlier when I was doing 75 hard for the very first time that I did it in, I doubt I would have done it had I not had like a coach in my corner that was creating an environment that I could step into, that I could have a culture around me that would really like allow that space. Maybe I would have grit through it. But I don't know. It's like hard to say. And I do know that I did succeed, and it was really possible because of my coach. And so when I think back, I've had mentors, I've had people take over tasks in my business that I just don't like doing. I've had my husband is absolutely a supporter of me. I have friends that are amazing supporters of me. One of the biggest problems that I see in our industry is I see a lot of coaches that are in isolation. They don't even want to tell their partner, what they really want in their business to enroll support from their partner. They're kind of asking permission from their partner. It's like, is it okay if I build my business? Is it okay if I spend some money here? And it's like, if you're always asking like, is it okay if I do this? Is it okay if I do that? You're like giving a lot of power away to everybody else and kind of hoping that it works out. And the thing is, you have so much power to make really positive change for yourself and for other people and for your spouse and for everybody else. But if you're kind of sitting there waiting for everybody else to like give it to you, the thing is everybody else is also working on their dreams, and they're also working on their goals, and they're also working on what they need to do. And so when you're choosing to step into the role of coach, it's so super important to learn the skill of enrollment of support. And, that's not telling people what to do. That is enrolling, like, hey, I have this vision. Hey, what do you think about supporting this? What do you think about being a part of this? And the biggest challenge I have faced in the last couple of years has been, because my vision has a big boundaries. I want more people to actually learn how to be authoritative in their marketing and authoritative in their selling, but not in a like, here, let me squish you under my thumb kind of a way, but rather in a empowered and amazing authentic expression kind of a way, so that the world has better representation in it. Like that's a big vision. That is huge. And the thing is, I can't do it alone. And I know that I cannot do it alone. So enrolling like more team members, more people to support me in that vision has been like, wow, there's a lot of pieces to that I've been learning and needing to move through my own perfectionism around as well. And so one of the reasons why I keep recommitting to doing things like 75 hard, and doing things like enrolling in coaching programs, and doing things like working with people like over at the gas sales. Gas sales is like amazing. You should definitely go check them out with Sean Gray and his team over there, is because I am so committed to working with people and having amazing culture in my coaching programs, in my own team, in my sales team, and in all of that. And the truth is, coach, if you sit in isolation trying to do a whole lot of things all by yourself, you're going to find that you go too slow for what the actual mission actually needs from you. You are going to find yourself getting swallowed up by all of the needs and the desires. And the thing is that there's so many people around you that are so ready for your help, and they're so ready to help you too. It's about building a positive, enduring network So I'm really excited because this week we got a couple more Dream Team members joining the Coaches Plaza, and like they couldn't be more excited to support. I can't be more excited to support them. We're really excited about the last quarter of the year, and you know that perfectionism thing. You know, I hope that what I had to share with you today made a difference. And if it did, leave a comment, let me know, and we will see you in the Coaches Plaza. We'll see you soon.